Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget to comment anything you want to talk about, anything you want us to talk about, any issue you take with a point we make. Doesn't matter. We appreciate any and all feedback and engagement. It's great. You guys keep this show going. It's season 5. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Two Men in a Garden, without a doubt, is my absolute favorite local salsa. If they weren't sponsoring the pod, I'd still be picking it up. They are Billiken fans. They are St. Louisans. And if you're looking for a last-minute snack to bring over to your Super Bowl watch party, I don't know why I'm saying that because we're releasing this on Monday. And look, if you didn't bring Two Men in a Garden to your Super Bowl party, not only are you missing out on great salsa, but you're depriving your friends, your family, your children. You're depriving them of the great taste of Two Men in a Garden. So next time you have a gathering, next time you're watching a game, a sports ball game, make sure you got Two Men in a Garden salsa, whether it's mild, medium, or hot. No matter your taste or your children's or your friends or your family, Two Men in a Garden has you covered with the salsa that's sure to elevate your post-game snacking or in-game snacking. They have simple, fresh ingredients with a ton of flavor. Visit them online at twomeninthegarden.com to shop your favorite flavors and learn about Kitchen Hub STL as well. Don't forget to follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter for their latest updates. Pete, I think it would be remiss to not mention the setting we are in after that wonderfully chaotic ad read. It is morning. It is one of the few times we've ever recorded in the morning. And we're going to do our best.
We are, Zach. My kids have eaten their pancakes.
Yes.
They are set for the next couple hours. But then I'm going to have to take them for the next couple hours after that because there's a Xavier game on and my wife's going to watch that. So trading shifts, but it's a little adjustment for me. You can see the window's a little bit brighter back here than it normally is.
A little extra light. It looks good on you. It looks good on you then.
A little extra shine on my forehead this morning. But yeah, it feels different, but I think we're gonna do it justice, Zach.
Yeah, you mentioned breakfast, and just to add on to that Two Men in a Garden salsa ad read, I've been told that if you make like an egg omelet or something like that, like it's a good little salsa. It's a good salsa to add.
Yeah, as opposed to an omelet without eggs, I suppose.
I don't know, dude, I can't have eggs. Like I like this is why I've been told I can't have eggs.
Okay, you can't have eggs.
Yeah, I'm allergic to eggs.
Can you have them in like baked goods? Or
yes.
is it, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So my
it's
daughter.
Been weird throughout my life.
My daughter was born with an egg allergy, and she reacted to it for the first couple years, and then grew out of it. Luckily, when she was 2. So that was fun having to take her to the allergist every few months.
Not that anybody cares, but I've had a milk egg allergy. So milk, it's like an actual like throat, itchy, but it has come and gone like every block of years in my life. Like college, I couldn't really get pizza because it would knock me out, and then after college, I could eat pizza all of a sudden. It's been a wild ride. Luckily, I can have the Chaffetz pizza now because that stuff is, besides looking horrendous, it tastes really good. I don't understand it.
I've never had it.
Things I don't understand, Pete. NBA roster movement, contracts. It's a step more understandable than MLS.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea I don't understand the NBA. However, I do understand Billiken's in the NBA, and Jordan Goodwin's heading back to the NBA. He's already been back to the NBA.
He has, Zach. He signed a 2-way contract with the Lakers, and he scored 10 in 25 minutes off the bench in his debut on Saturday night in a win over the Indiana Pacers. So per Joel Hall, he's eligible to play in 19 more games this regular season under this 2-way contract, unless he's then signed to a standard contract. However, the chances of that have dropped because the Mark Williams trade was voided by the NBA, so the Lakers don't have an extra roster spot at the moment. So that that lessens the chances a little bit, Zach. But it seems like the response so far to what we've seen out of Goodwin and his debut has been positive.
It was wild, and I'm sorry I didn't have this pulled up, but Lakers fans were extremely happy. At least the ones I saw on Twitter. I mean, just to read the first three, not even going deep. Did I just fall in love with our 3-and-D guy? He played really good. Hope he gets more minutes, especially on the defensive end. Low key, this dude could be really nice for us. I mean, and it goes further. Like, there are people down the line that are saying, sign this guy immediately. This is exactly what we need. This is the culture we need. I mean, LA fans are seeing what we saw up until 2020.
It's a basketball town. They know hoop out there. And Jordan Goodwin is one of those guys. We said it at his previous NBA stops, right? Like everywhere else he's played so far, he's going to be that fan favorite kind of guy because they see a guy who fights hard. You know, he's not like, he doesn't have that explode off the screen athleticism. He's not a high flyer. He's just a dog, and he gets after it. In fact, we always joked at SLU that his best offense was missing and then getting his own offensive rebound or getting someone else's offensive rebound. And in this game, he kind of had this awkward little, what looked like he kind of lobbed it to himself off the glass, right? He got his own offensive rebound on what didn't really look like a shot and then put that in. He banked in a three. The fact that they're calling him a 3-and-D guy is funny to me because he's really not much of a three.
Well, I think that's a testament. That's a testament to how Jay Good has really done the work himself.
Yes.
Because I mean, up until his entire career, it was a bit of a wince if he took a three.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He was not a 3-point shooter in college. His 3-point shooting I has been kind of spotty in the pros. He's had some good streaks, but at times he hasn't been great either. I know he's over 30%.
Sometimes he's just a D guy.
Right. That's right.
Big D guy. Big D guy. Don't clip that out. Don't clip that out and post to Twitter. Don't do that.
But you know, when he was with the South Bay Lakers, I think he was shooting a little over 30%. So that's definitely got to come up if he's going to stick around. But the defense is there, the effort's there, the offensive rebounding. I know in the press conference after the game, they asked him about drawing the toughest assignment, and he said it's really not even that much of a conversation. It's just what he likes to do, right? Like he sort of assigns himself the toughest defensive assignment. So I think if he can do that, ingratiate himself with the team, you never know. Maybe they'll find a spot for him. It's a shame it didn't come easily with that trade falling through. But just maybe he'll catch on and we'll see him alongside LeBron and Luka for what should be a
ridiculous.
Pretty
That's
interesting
so
stretch
dumb.
run.
That's so dumb. Like not I'm not talking about the Luka LeBron trade. I'm just saying, like, that's so dumb. Just the whole scenario. It feels like a I don't know. That's weird, man.
If we I guess
I guess it's not the first time we've had a Billiken on the same team as LeBron James.
That's true.
I mean, Larry Hughes was on a team with LeBron.
Yeah.
I don't think Willie Reed didn't cross over with LeBron in Miami, did he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think
I do remember going to Memphis to watch him play, and then he didn't get on the court against Memphis, which was I didn't even get to go down to the lower level. I thought, like, for shoot around they didn't allow you to go to the the 100s. I was like, what? That's I don't know. No,
they're not in the pyramid anymore.
No. Bass Pro Shop.
So if Yuri Collins, Zach, were to get a 2-way contract soon, that would be the first time in 55 years that multiple Billikens were on active NBA rosters. Bob Ferry, Rich Neiman, and Barry Orms were all in the league at the same time in the 1968-69 season. Thanks again to Joel Hall for outlining that. But he's saying there might be. He was saying on Twitter last night or this morning just that there might just be a 2-way contract in Yuri's future in the near term. I know he's been playing really well for their G League team down in Santa Cruz.
That's the Santa Cruz Warriors, right?
Yeah. Yep.
No, I would absolutely die to see both players on NBA roster. I think Goodwin's kind of that, you mentioned it. He's that ultimate glue guy that he gives you the down and dirty minutes. He's a Pat Maroon type for the people that need a hockey transition, or, not necessarily even Pat Maroon, maybe more like a Sundquist, a guy who's scratched one night, plays another night. But is that they call them the black aces in hockey, the guys that are scratched almost every playoff game. And then they come onto the ice dressed up at the end of the game when you carry the Stanley Cup. Pete, I don't know if you know this, but apparently, like, mid-major college basketball in the A10 was deep in fixing in the 50s. I just found this. I just kind of waded into these waters. St. Joe's was involved in a game. St. Joe's was involved in a game. GW was involved in a game. Loyola Chicago, Kentucky game was fixed.
Really?
Yeah, in the NIT. I'll send you the video. I just watched it. Right. It's stupid beyond belief on YouTube. He does good stuff. I just watched this video. But I just kept seeing name after name of like A10 school. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I knew Boston was messed up, but like, I didn't know all the way down to like Kentucky, Chicago games. Yeah. But anyway, I mentioned that because St. Joe's. I know you were sweating, wondering where I was going to go with the match.
I was not prepared. I was not prepared for match fixing.
No, let's talk this St. Joe's game first. It was second game of the week. It was Friday 10. By the way, I can only say Friday 10. Friday 10. That's in my head over and over. It's disgusting. I'm sorry I made everybody listen to that. 76-63 loss at St. Joe's, Friday the 7th. This one started out close, and it looked like the Billikens were playing tough on the road.
It did. I mean, it was nip and tuck for a while, and then SLU goes on a big run, and next thing you know, it's 30-20 with about 5 minutes to go in the first half, Zach, and then they didn't score the rest of the half. But I want to circle back just a little bit and talk about manufacturing baskets here, Zach. Yeah,
what I love about this team, it's so beautiful to watch because this team. When Robbie Avila signed on, we heard a lot about how slow he was, and I'm not. He pointed out that people think I'm going X speed slow, so I'm going to go slower than that. Mm-hmm. And what I think manufacturing baskets is kind of associated with that, in that you're not really playing what it doesn't feel like classic. It doesn't look like basketball. It's very much the player probes in. You've got two-man game. They're working off each other, not necessarily like your classic passing. Like, it's very much waiting. You're waiting out the defense to move faster than you, or make a mistake, or lull into a sense of security. And then when they make that mistake, that's when your guys open. It's very much like if you played none of the baskets in like NBA 2K in video games are like goals in NHL. It's very uncanny. And that's what I think about when I watch this, is how uncanny it looks. It doesn't look like basketball, but I really think this is, I loved what I see, because it's just so, it's so like, haha, we got you. It's like you're getting one over on the defense. And I love it. And it felt like we were getting away from that. It feels like it just, like I didn't see another basket. After that, where the last 5 minutes of non-scoring, that was the last time I saw it. And it was just, I want more of that. Inject that stuff into my veins.
Yeah, I can't quite figure out how we got away from that on the offensive end. On the defensive end, what happened was really Reynolds, right? I mean, Reynolds got hot. Yes. He sort of decided he wasn't going to miss anymore after they started 1 for 14 in the game, right? Yeah. And so it was kind of clear, like, okay, St. Joe's heated up. We made some mistakes. I think we were going under on ball screens on everybody, and I get it. They start 1 of 14. maybe you relax a little bit, but St. Joe's has really good shooters, and they're always going to keep chucking. They've always been like that ever since Billy Lang was there. So the offensive end, I think you're right, is a little more confusing. Like, why did we get away from what was working? Why did we get away from our principles? When you go the whole 5 minutes of the first half without last 5 minutes of the first half without scoring, it's pretty devastating. Luckily, we did have enough of a cushion, so we're only down 2 at halftime, right? 32-30. But the start of the second half may have been worse, Zach. When you add that last 5 minutes and then the first 4 minutes of the second half, I think it was a 26-4 run before SLU started scoring again. And you just can't do that on the road.
No, you can't.
Or anywhere, ever.
No. I with Reynolds, it felt like he caught on to the rhythm of St. Joe's. It wasn't so much that Eric Reynolds was the catalyst for St. Joe's. I thought St. Joe's was the catalyst for Eric Reynolds finding his rhythm. And I thought, right. Yeah, you know, I really, you saw him hit one and you're like, okay, that looked like he's got it. And I don't know. I think that's where you kind of want to see maybe to get maybe a little more physicality. I guess, you know, the next time he comes down the court, make sure he's, you know, blow up whatever chance he gets to get the ball. I don't know, hard foul. I don't like. No, I'm not saying play dirty, but you know, let him know you're there.
Do what other teams do to Gibson Jimerson.
Yes,
you know, I don't really ever see us hounding people like that. Yeah. You know, pulling arm bars. You know, all that.
I don't care if you get a foul call. I really don't.
Yeah.
I want his
test the fences.
I want his rhythm completely thrown off. I want him, like, you know, he got hit late in the game with that hit. You know, not necessarily to that extent, but it does. You know, it'll either wake him up even further or it'll disrupt his rhythm, and I'll take my chances that it disrupts his rhythm.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of would have liked to see a little more. I don't even know if they didn't, but. I thought that would have, I don't know, dude. It was a weird game because it didn't feel like we were, like, even if you look at the box score, besides the number of shots St. Joe's got, I can't really find anything in the box score that says we were terrible.
No, it really was kind of a rhythm thing. And that's where St. Joe's is dangerous because they do have a few guys who are, you know, pro level talents, probably NBA level talents in one or two cases. Reynolds ends up with 25 in the game. Brown got 20 points after kind of heating up in the second half. But Zach, I think we probably shouldn't go any further without asking what's going on with Robbie Avila. And before I get to you, I just want to kind of set the table again. He was terrible in this game. There's no question about it. He missed layups, free throws. He wasn't rebounding well. He was getting his shots blocked. He was getting beat on defense. Got in foul trouble, like he's been doing lately. He's not really playing that trigger role in the offensive as much. Like you were talking about the two-man game, you're just not seeing him play what we thought was his role. It's really everything, right? And it's been 3 bad games in a row now. It's been 4 out of 5 games. You know, he was good against VCU. He got outplayed by Castro at GW before that game. Since VCU, he's been awful. Until these 3, he was averaging 18, 7, and 4. It's dropping by the game. In this game, he was 2 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from the free throw line, including missed front ends there. 5 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, 3 turnovers, 3 fouls. He missed several layups and the front end of a 1-on-1 late in the game. He was also fouled on one of those attempts with no call. I thought that was probably the decisive play of the game, right? Because he gets fouled, no call, misses the layup. St. Joe's goes down to the other end, hits a 3 to go up 7. So a minute later, they're up 12. You know, it easily could have been a 2-point game instead, either if Robbie gets the free throws, or we otherwise convert at that end. And now it's a double-digit game late, and it felt insurmountable. I'm going to turn it over to you now, Zach, because I don't really have anything but questions about what's going on. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on our guy, Robbie Avila, and just exactly what is going on with his game right now.
I don't know. I have no idea, dude. It's infuriating. And I don't know if it's infuriating because it's really like I'm sorry, the guy just looks like it's not like he's not like he doesn't care. I'm sorry.
Well, that's
That's
kind
the
of
problem. That's the problem with this whole thing is because, like, I don't know. I tend to, I tend to believe he cares. I think he loves basketball and he's competitive and he loves to
yes.
win. I think that's all true, but like none of that looked like he was like other than he was. It looked like the guy at the rec that isn't like that's what happens when he looks bad. He looks like the guy at the rec that's bad.
Yes.
And so it looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman is trying to go in what is that? There's something about Mary. Is that I don't remember whichever Ben Stiller movie that is with the rain dance, the basketball court. But he looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Along Came Polly.
Yeah, Along Came Polly. Thank you. He looks like Philip Seymour Hoffman and Along Came Polly, and he's trying to win the game, and he's he just loses the ball every time. It gives it away. Cheap turnovers, missed front end of the 1-and-1, not playing through contact. It's infuriating to watch it, and all you can do is question is like, why are you doing this?
So the thing is, when he has his best games, like arguably he did against St. Joe's last time when he had 21 and 11, he still kind of looks the same physically, right? So it's one of those things where he's going to get, like it almost feels like he's getting away with it when he has a good game, because you're like, man, this guy's really unconventional, but the results are undeniable. The offense runs through him. He's putting up numbers,
and he looked good.
But when he doesn't do well, that's when you start questioning everything.
We saw it, but we saw it earlier in that game too. We saw what you're talking about, where he does get away with it, or quote unquote get away with it. Mm-hmm. He did it really well early, a couple possessions, but when it's bad, it looks like he just doesn't, or he doesn't know what he's doing, or doesn't care, or. It's just how he looks, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't deny that it doesn't look good, but I just don't really care about like knowing what he is. I don't really care about the look anymore. It's the results. And that's what's not happening. The offense isn't running right. He's not putting up numbers.
Right.
It's just not. It's not clicking right now. And everything. His timing looks off. Something looks not right. He did have his knee wrapped in this game, which we hadn't really seen previously. So I don't know, man.
Oh man, I just it's one of those things where, again, you can talk about, and I have minutes. You can talk about role in the offense, and and I think, do I think his minutes could drop? I absolutely. I'm in my mind, everything's on the table right now. Mm-hmm. But I do think that his role in the offense, needs to like. It's going to be really tough to win games when Robbie Avila is this bad in an offense that's designed around Robbie Avila.
Yeah, that's well said.
And I look, if he's, and we talked about it early on, and I went to bat for this argument, and I will stand by this argument that if Robbie needs to sit, Killian Brockhoff is there. Killian Brockhoff is not Robbie Avila at his best or at his good. Mm-hmm. Killian Brockhoff can run the offense at a base level. He has the skill set to do everything that Robbie does that's not exceptional, right? So sure. He might not make that pocket pass, but neither has Robbie Avila. He may not be able to back down a guy and go up and under. Robbie hasn't done that consistently in a week or two. He may not have the vision of Robbie Avila. Robbie hasn't had that vision in a week. Robbie hasn't affected the game. Like, yes, his presence, but that presence is waning with every game that he's clearly been outmatched by whatever defensive scheme has been thrown at him. And so, I think it's time to give Brockhoff some run. But also I think Robbie, there is the option Well, why don't I let you go ahead and respond to that, and then I'll talk about the changing of Robbie's role.
So I am not as gung-ho as you about getting more time for the bench at his expense. I mean, I do think we could maybe be a little more strategic about, hey, we're a minute from a media timeout. Let's give one of these other guys a few back and up and down the court shifts here, like things like that. I don't mind being a little bit more strategic with that kind of stuff, but I do think you do have to ride or die with your stars. Like if somebody's in a hitting slump, like you don't take your best player out of the lineup and just leave him on the bench. He's not going to get back like that. So we do need Robbie back one way or the other. And if he's not hurt, if he is able to play, and I think you just gotta you gotta ride it. Sooner or later, we're going to run into an A10 opponent that he matches up really well with, and things start clicking and he starts feeling good and he gets his mind right or whatever is going on. I think he's going to play his way back into it, and you can't bench his way back into it.
Yeah. And that brings me, and I see that side. Obviously I would like to, I don't care how he gets back. I just think I don't want it to come at the expense of losing games. That is my bottom line. But as far as a role kind of reduction, I think of it more as like he's really got to put more emphasis on that role at the top of the key, the top of the arc, and that distributor role. And the more he kind of gets in that distributor role, I hope my hope would be that he kind of stops worrying about the scoring and all that other stuff and really just focusing on getting back to doing what he does in that distributor role, because he is being keyed on and he is not doing well getting to the basket. Right.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him, minutes don't need to take a back seat, but I would like to see the offense still run through him, but maybe limit his role as going to the hoop. Unless he's making a cut or something like that. Like I don't want to see plays being run for him. I want to see him being that center of the universe with everything running off of him. But also the role in like the end of the game. Like there is absolutely no reason Robbie should have been like given that ball and been allowed to like basically play one-on-one for the last 2 minutes of the game. Like you have a guy like Kobe Johnson, who we're going to talk about. When you hear his stat line, I don't understand. He kept backing down guards all night. He was getting whatever he wanted. I thought he should have probably had the ball in his hand. I know Warlick had the ball in his hands once, and I loved his giant cojones in that moment. But yeah, I don't know. I think you have to be right now. Robbie's involvement has to be a little more selective than you would like, and in my opinion.
The end of the game was rough, right? Because he goes 2 of 11 from the field in this game, and a few of those misses, several of those misses, were in the last 5 minutes of the game. The play I mentioned earlier that was backbreaking, right? Which I would chalk that one up to a missed call, but the rest of them too. There were misses, and look, should the ball be in his hands? It's hard to argue that it. I mean, I guess you can argue that it shouldn't have in the context of that game,
yes.
But in the context of what we understand everybody to be on this team and on the floor, I think at the bigger picture level, Robbie's going to have a little more confidence. It's just, why get away from the things that were working, right? Because now we're talking about the shots he had late in the game. He was getting in deep, and he was pretty heavily, he was well guarded by Fleming, by a big, more athletic guy, and just really wasn't getting any clean looks, wasn't getting anything good. And it's like, Robbie, look up, move the ball around. Did it have to be Kobe? Not necessarily. It could have been anybody in the flow of our offense, but the flow of our offense is what wasn't happening. I don't think you're not going to get back in the game from getting away from what you do. And that was kind of the whole second half of this game.
Yeah, and getting away from that 2-man game we talked about earlier,
yes.
that kind of probing offense offensive action where you've got two guys kind of in a small area working off each other,
Right.
inside the arc, looking for that kind of backdoor layup. Yeah, I just that it was that was brutal,
Mhm.
because it felt like it just was, it was there and then it was given away. It just it it didn't feel like St. Joe's took it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't completely disagree with that. I mean, they did get hot, as we
Yes.
said, but they did come back down to earth too in the second half. And this just like some other games that we've talked about recently, this one got really close. It got really close down the stretch, and we just could not capitalize. We couldn't string things together. But even worse, Zach, Gibson Jimerson tweaked his ankle early in the second half, and given how good he's been lately, that was the last guy we could afford to lose.
Yeah, yeah, I think the silver lining, and it's since been noted that he's day to day with a lower body injury. But from what we saw on the broadcast, he did get rewrapped by JB on the training table in the corner, which was bizarre, by the way, to
Yeah.
watch them just like watch him get wrapped or whatever. And then he was dressed as if he could have gone in. Obviously, he had a towel, and I think everybody kind of knew he was done. But I think that was pretty positive visuals.
Yeah, there were, Matt Rocchio said that, I wasn't listening to Earl and Rammer, but he said they sounded pretty negative from what they were seeing. But
Yeah.
then once we actually did get a camera on him in the game, I thought, well, I don't know, it looks kind of standard here. He's got his
Yeah.
shoe off, he's got his tape off. They're looking at it, they're going to rewrap it. I don't know. It all looked pretty standard to me, and yeah, they're calling it day to day lower body injury, which totally sounds like
To
hockey
hockey. I
thing.
feel like Elliot Friedman out here
Yeah,
giving you updates. This
everybody in
just
the
in on NHL Network. It's Elliot
yes.
Friedman and Mike Rupp. We've got a Gibson Jimerson is going to be day to day with a lower body injury.
I know it's so funny, but it is it's obviously his ankle. Everyone
Yes.
who saw this game knew it was his ankle. Day to day is fine. I'll take it. It's not ideal. Maybe it does give him a chance to rest a little
Yeah.
bit, which I don't hate for him. But yeah, it's a little frustrating because it looks like he was kind of in the corner, in the far left corner in front of the bench. From the camera angle, it looked like he kind of just hit a wet spot.
Yeah.
And it was like, you gotta take care of your floor.
Yeah.
St. Joe's.
Well, I think that negative attitude or negative attitude. I don't want to say negative attitude. Negative reaction with radio is like, you're watching the ball and all of a sudden Gibson goes down. They don't really have the benefit of replay. I don't think. I think they do, but they don't. I think it's one of those where you just see a guy go down in a heap from a non-contact injury, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah.
But I think you could consider this one contact. He contacted a wet spot on the floor.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm grateful it's not a knee.
Yes, God, yes.
And that it was the ankle. So, I'd like to think that we could. Will he be 100%? I don't know, but the way that sports training is now, and the way that they wrap their feet and everything, I'd like to think we could get a pretty good version of Gibson Jimerson back soon here.
While we're being negative and doom and gloom, the Swope show was it was postponed for this game.
Yeah, he wasn't good in this game. Normally, and I was fully expecting Zach after a bad first half. I thought, okay, he wakes up in the second, we'll be all right. But he just had 6 points on 2 of 8 shooting in this game. No field goals inside the arc. I think he was 0 of 3 inside the arc, 2 of 5 outside. Only getting 5 looks from outside. He needs more than that in a game like this. 5 turnovers. He did have 6 assists and 2 steals, but he just couldn't get involved as a scorer. He couldn't get into the rhythm that he needs to play in. And if you take him out of the rhythm, you kind of get just a shell of him, right?
Yeah, you talk about those turnovers, and again, all the turnovers that this team has been giving up, man, like they are just awful. And I think that's, like I tweeted out after, what was it, or during the UMass game, that this is just horrendous. Like, and it is. Like the turnovers, are just so dumb and so unforced.
His Shirts has said it. It's a high degree of difficulty passes that they're trying to make, and you have the ones where they're trying to beat a little bit of pressure, and they're in the open court, and they give up those devastating turnovers where St. Joe's then has 2/3, a half court to work back, and they've got you on your heels. So those are always devastating turnovers. But even in the half court offense, it's just trying to make these passes that are not there. Yeah. You can see they're not there. I can see they're not there. And somehow on the floor, they look like they're there, and they're trying to make these things. But it's like, guys, just simplify. Yeah. The passes within the context of this offense don't need to be a high degree of difficulty. They just need to be good, sharp passes. And I don't know what they're doing.
I think my least favorite. So I have a major problem. I have a problem with one specific area of the passing, and that is the inbounds pass against a press, any sort of pressure. Our guys don't come back to the ball. Like they make a run back to the ball, but they stop way too far away. They do not, like, I can't. It's got to be 25 times that we've tossed a ball in and it's been tipped off a an end zone inbounds, an end line inbounds. It's astronomical how many times we just we get a pass tipped or turned over on an out of bounds play on our own end line. It's insane.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I'm gonna have to watch those more closely, though.
It's so bad, dude.
Yeah,
they don't come back all the way, and then it's not even a forced pass. It's just like Robbie is also guilty of it. He does it again. There's not even pressure. It's just a guy who happens to be like, oh hey, look, he didn't pay attention. I caught the ball. Yeah. Robbie, he's gonna step over the edge. I'm shocked in the terrible games that he's had, that he hasn't tossed a ball in with his foot on the line. Because he just that guy, he's in a hurry to get the ball and play, and he does not pay attention. It's brutal. And that's just another thing we can pile on Robbie about, I guess.
Well, maybe we should flip it.
No, it's the entire team. Well, it's the entire team.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the entire team. Every one of them has tried to make a pass on the inbounds that's been tipped. It's just not. I don't know. We got more focus. This team just does not have great focus a lot.
Well, let's talk about the guy who's become the most consistent player lately, and that's Kobe Johnson. He deserves a ton of credit for stepping up again. You mentioned his stat line here: 21 points on 9 of 11 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3. Both of them were good looks. 2 of 2 from the line, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 turnover. He's been steady as they go, Zach. And in a team, we've got Gibson, Jimerson, who I will say has been good lately. You've got Robbie Avila, you've got Isaiah Swope, who saw Kobe Johnson as the guy who would be our steadiest presence in the middle of the conference season. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it is crazy. I think we'd probably be less inclined to kind of marvel at or be shocked if he had been around for his entire career here. I think he's certainly showing what it means to be a senior leader, the elder statesman on the team. And I love what I watch from him. I love the guard post play. I think that's amazing. I think he's great in that. Again, I talk about the manufacturing. He's really good in that 2-man game. I think the only thing that you could look at in his game yesterday or Friday was his defense. And again, I think there are layers to that.
There are, because I don't know how much he was being told to go under on ball screens, but when they heated up, he wasn't where he needed to be when Reynolds and Brown started heating up. There were some other lapses that he had. In general, he's been one of the best defenders on this team. He usually gets the toughest assignment, so you got to give him credit for all of that. But yeah, there definitely were stretches in this game where it was like, okay, Kobe, I don't think that's the defense we need here.
Yeah, no, I love Kobe. I tend to root for the guys further down the line.
I know you do.
I know. I love them. I love them. I want to wrap them up and I want to adopt them and take them home.
Well, he's a starter now, and he's earning his minutes. He's essential.
He's fantastic. It's just so sick that we have a fourth guy stepping up, and that the two of our four aren't, producing.
Yeah.
And you look at those guys and you say, hey, if you just play your game, you don't play outside of your ability, or you don't, try to do too much, we come away with a win in that game. And we probably come away with a win in more games than just St. Joe's.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think you're right.
I think it's kind of simplistic to say, because I think all good teams are looking for consistency, but I think we are just so much like we're so close in a lot of ways to being a team that should be reckoned with. Again, we've beaten the best team in the conference, VCU.
Right.
And I think we're so close to being a team that can be reckoned with, that should be feared going into the tournament, and we're just not there. And it's a matter of having all your guys figure it out on a base level. I don't even need to be nobody on this team needs to be spectacular.
No, they just need to kind of do their job. I think you're right.
Yes.
And this is where the lack of depth, which we'll get into now, hurts us, right? I mean, it's one thing if a couple starters aren't having a great game and your sixth man is there and your seventh man is there, and we just don't have that luxury on this roster. Now, I will say Kalu Anya was pretty good in this game, yes. 11 points in 23 minutes. Most of the scoring came early, but he was pretty steady overall. But after Jimerson went out, we saw a lot more of the bench. Dylan Warlick got 23 minutes. He ended up with 2 points and 3 rebounds. He made some good plays, but not really the level of productivity we've been seeing out of him lately.
No, but I thought he was really assertive. And I love that. I love that werewolf attitude, that Brian Conklin werewolf attitude that that Billikens.com posters love. He was really assertive. He was not afraid to back down bigger, stronger player. Maybe not stronger. I don't know. That dude's got some bulk. Yeah.
Yeah.
But taller players. I loved him late in the game, going for it, trying to get a bucket, manufacturing scoring. Just didn't work out. He did get to the line a couple times, but he was uncharacteristically 2 for 4.
Yeah, he was over 80% coming into the game. So that's, not ideal. I know it's not a super high volume, but he seems like he's pretty reliable there. One guy who I expected more out of in this game, Zach, was Amari McCautry. He was due for big things after the finish of that UMass game where he was the hero. But he was getting smoked on defense in this game, and he just didn't play in the second half. I can't tell you how many times in the first half it was like a blow-by, right? Like he'd be one-on-one with his man, and they would just go around him. They weren't doing anything flashy, just flat out going around him. And he's so big and strong and athletic. It's like you can't let these guards, and I know in some cases a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker, but
a little bit craftier.
A little bit craftier, but you've got to know how to play those angles.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because it jogged in my memory. The angles were just, I remember them being horrendous, like really bad. Like on the broadcast, you had, and you were like, by the time you could snap your fingers, you saw that there was, you were like, oh God, you could see it coming on the broadcast.
Sure.
But it's interesting because you saw Schertz really stick with McCautry from offensive errors, but the defensive errors, and they were innumerable. You can't survive out there.
Yeah, it was just so clear what was going on, and you can't be a liability like that and still get minutes. Hopefully,
I,
he figures that out soon.
I wonder about the line because with the defense and kind of defenses being the reason, most bench players aren't going to get run. I wonder about the leash with a perimeter player or like a big man, like your traditional guards versus your traditional big man. With this lineup, we don't have when the big men, when Anya or Avila has to come out, like they kind of just the leash has to be long with the big man. With a guard, you have a little more option. So I wonder about how whether or not McCautry would have stayed in if he was a big man and that would have happened versus, I think that's an interesting conversation to be had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fair question. Speaking of big men off the bench, your guy Max Picard likes to dunk
propaganda, baby.
everything he can, and we love him for it. 3 for 3 for 6 points, all dunks, 2 rebounds in 12 minutes. I like what we saw here. I liked. This is one case where the 2-man game, he and Robbie had some nice little interplay.
Yes.
On a lob. He got a couple lobs from guards. You kind of can see what's here. That moldable clay here. He's got ways to go physically and just figuring it all out. But right now there are some things he does nicely.
Yeah, I agree, and I think if nothing else, a guy like Bakar or Brokoff with Avila, with Anya, it gives the other team something else to try to figure out. If the offense isn't working and you can't figure out how to beat the defense, confuse the defense. Throw something that they're totally not ready for, and that's just another guy off the bench. I don't think I don't think you're scouting, the Robbie Avila and Picard connection, or I love the idea of getting him in there, and obviously it shook some things up. He got 2 rebounds. He looked very good, very his rebounding was what's the word for it? I'm blanking. It's just basic. It was very fundamental. Thank you. It was fundamental.
Okay.
We got there, guys. Pete was looking at me like I have no idea.
Well, I don't know where you. Yeah.
I have no idea. His very fundamental rebounding, boxing out. It was great to see. I think Robbie had a steal in this game at least one time. I thought was nice. I wanted to point that out because we were really kind of shitting on him. The 3-point shooting, Pete.
Yeah.
Low makes and low attempts.
Yeah, I think there's reason for concern on both of those, right? Like the Hawks defense does deserve credit for their defense. They clearly were told to take away the 3-point line from SLU, and they did. But we're supposed to be able to create better than that. 15 attempts is like, I don't know, almost maybe just over half of what you want against this St. Joe's team, which we've seen some pretty porous defense from over the years. So they were a lot more assertive in this game, and again, I credit them for that. But 3 for 15 is not good, but I don't know whether to be more concerned about the 3 or the 15.
I mean, I'm just concerned. I don't know, dude.
I think, well, 2 things you can point to: Jimerson going down early in the second half, obviously, but number 2, Isaiah Swope not being allowed to get into a rhythm at all. He only had 5 attempts, and we're used to seeing a bigger number from him. So that's a big part of the explanation right there. But even Kobe Johnson is so steady from the 3-point line lately, and only gets 2 looks at a 3 in this game. Robbie Avila, I think, was 0 for 3. So nobody was really shooting as many as you would have liked.
No, not at all. And nobody was rebounding as much as you would have liked.
No, SLU got out rebounded by 11. St. Joe's had 14 offensive rebounds to just 5 for the Bills. Some of that was due to the zone. SLU struggles to rebound out of that zone. We've seen that. But St. Joe's had a clear athletic advantage as well. Those guys can get after it, and I think they were trying to leverage that and were successful at that. We got to figure out how to keep teams off the offensive glass, whether it's out of the man-to-man or the zone. Not great at it.
Mason is upcoming, and they are tough on the glass.
They are. They're not. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
Their style and everything. But yeah, we just have to get better. Zach, I just cannot figure out what happened once we hit the 30-point mark. 15 minutes into the game, it felt like we traded coaches. Our players got sick all of a sudden. It just felt weird. Everything was different, and we talked about before getting away from what was working. And I think that's part of it. I just brought this point up again because it's just like, is there something we're missing that went wrong here? Why the wheels came off?
Some bad sushi before the game. That finally, 30 minutes in, it finally hit the fan.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's of course Billy Lang coaches his best game against SLU.
Yeah.
Of the year. I just don't.
Best game we've seen him coach. Yep.
I just don't. I don't know what the hell happened. It's for a coach and a I think the offensive stagnation is tough to see when you have a coach come in with such an offensive pedigree and then have such a good defense. So I mean, even an okay offense, and we are in business, right?
Yeah. I think that's correct. Yeah, it's a shame this one got away from us. I mean, bottom line, when Jimerson goes down, both Avila and Swope can't continue to have a bad game. You just have to figure it out. But going back, Zach, on Tuesday, the 4th, SLU pulled out a 73-71 win at UMass. Felt like we stole this one and didn't deserve to win it, but then again, neither did UMass.
No, and maybe this should have been a sign of things to come against St. Joe's. I thought it was a sign of, a possible turning point, maybe a wake-up call to everyone involved. However, it was not, but it was shocking and enjoyable in the moment.
It wasn't enjoyable until it was, right?
Oh, yeah, yes, correct. The moment we stole awful. The game was quite enjoyable. I felt like Marv and Harry, getting one over on Kevin, which they never did, actually. So, which would have made it memorable. We led it too. We led by 2 at halftime. We were +5 in fouls, +4 in turnovers, and -5 in offensive rebounds. We didn't even talk about the start of the second half against St. Joe's, where we got like 4 fouls in like a minute and a half.
Oh. Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah, I think fouls were 6-1 or 6-2 early in the second half. But yeah, despite all of those things, you're still leading. So the second half keys here are pretty obvious. Keep them off the glass. Quit giving the ball away, right? You win this game if you do that, but the message was not received. SLU kept turning it over. UMass hit some threes. They kept getting offensive rebounds. Avila picked up his 3rd and 4th fouls, and SLU was playing from behind. And then, with just 23 minutes played, he got his 5th. 6 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. I had it written here. The slump continues. We were hoping it would end in the next game. But offensively, Zach, SLU was not doing enough to manufacture baskets. The offense was slow, tentative, lacking in motion, and we're not seeing them having fixed that yet.
No, it's just again. I had hoped that the final minute would have changed things, but it did not. This was just more of the same from the Billiken offense, and it's just we have yet to see kind of SLU's counter adjustment to the A10.
I think that's fair. I think there needs to be a pretty major adjustment, and I looked back because this game kind of reminded me of the Richmond game where we stole one late, 63-59 there against a far inferior team, and I was like, well, what happened after that game? I couldn't remember what the next one was, but that's where we beat LaSalle 64-52, and they really couldn't get anything against us. So it wasn't quite the same trajectory. We've been really hard to predict in the next game based on what just happened, but I think we do have to get to the sequence, that this game will be remembered for. So the Minutemen grew the lead to 10 with 6:38 to play.
I know that many people turned the game off, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like everything was going wrong. And that once you hit double digits kind of late, it's not insurmountable, but it felt bad. So then SLU goes on a 7-0 run after that and then gives up 4 straight. So it's 69-66 with 3:29 to play, and either team scores until the 117 mark when Daniel Rivera hit a pair of free throws to put UMass up 5. Then Gibson Jimerson missed a 3. Isaiah Swope missed the front end. Things looked pretty bad at that point. But then Amari McCautry came up with a steal, Zach, on a bad pass by Rivera. Bad pass.
I mean, not only was it a bad pass, it was a bad decision.
Yep.
From Jump Street.
Leave your feet in transition.
With no plan. Pull the ball out. You're out.
Oof.
You have 20.
Oof.
What? You have 20 seconds on the shot clock with 42 seconds left.
Yep. Terrible. But McCautry came up with it. Swope converted a layup at the other end. Kobe Johnson, I think this gets a little overlooked, fouled before they even inbounded the ball. No time comes off the clock. Right?
Playing 3D chess.
And I think there was 37 seconds left at this point. Jalen Curry from UMass missed the front end. McCautry got the rebound, and then Anya makes a layup with 22 seconds to go. And now all of a sudden, SLU's down 1. McCautry.
Well, hold on. I want to ask. They thought they got fouled when McCautry comes up with the rebound.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have called that.
No,
personally.
I didn't see anything.
Just incidental contact as two guys are going for this. Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't think there's anything to that. But McCautry came up with his second steal 3 seconds later on a terrible inbounds pass. The ball eventually got out to Swope, who missed.
I wasn't there yet.
A deep 3. The rebound looked like it went to UMass, but the first guy couldn't hang on. It bounced into the middle of 3 UMass players who couldn't secure it. McCautry hits the deck, lays all the way out for this, came up with the ball, and sits up, right? Doesn't move his legs, sits up, gets the ball out to Swope again, who hit it this time. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exact posture he had.
Yes.
Got it out to Swope. He gets up on his feet. The best part of this replay, Zach, is seeing McCautry. He puts his face in his hands. So emotional knowing that he made the big play and then got mobbed by his teammates coming into that timeout. So, yeah, if that's the rebound you're talking about, absolutely no.
There are so many. There are so many, like, it just the same thing kept happening to UMass over and over again. Like, so as you're reading it, I'm like, oh, is that the rebound? Oh, no, that's not the rebound.
UMass, I mean, like, I put myself in the position of their fans, just feeling like we won this game, and then to watch them piss down their legs in the last minute and a half it was shocking. They did everything wrong.
I knew this was, I knew we were going to win when they showed, like, the entire second, that last, like, 5 minutes or so, they didn't show one fan standing. Like, no student. They didn't show a students going crazy or having fun or anything like that. Nobody was like there was no atmosphere. They showed like a group of 3 girls having a conversation about God knows what. Like, it certainly didn't seem like they were, talking about the game.
No, it's a little bit of a dead environment, and you can't feel great about the state of their program heading into a new conference.
Unbelievable. That, like, they are the poster child for get a smaller arena.
Yeah. Well, they had this was the arena that they had back in the 90s when they were incredible, right? When they had Marcus Camby and Calipari and those teams. They're not what they used to be. But now, Zach, you're in a situation after we come out of this timeout, SLU's up by 2 with 9 seconds to play. Diggins dribbled the length of the floor. You knew he was going to take it himself. Anya blocked his attempt. The ball kind of bounced down sharply and was heading out of bounds, and the clock sounded. Ball game. The refs called it there. As I think at first I was kind of like, ooh, are they going to put some time back on this? But then it was like, no, I think the ball hit just inside the line and then kind of bounced up in the air, and there was nothing that could be done. So that's a 7-0 run for SLU in the last 28 seconds of this game. And I think despite the whole box score, you got to give McCautry the MVP despite playing 18 minutes. 7.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Every single one of them was huge. Several clutch clutch plays, steals, offensive rebounds, assists. He was everywhere in the last couple minutes, and he needed this game, right? He had been pretty quiet heading into this game, and it was clear based on post-game quotes that he's really hard on himself for mistakes. I noticed at George Washington how tentative he was, right? Like, think of that dunk that Anya had in this last game where the Red Seas are just parted and he had a wide open lane. McCautry could have done that twice that he passed up. He did try 2 others that weren't quite as easy, but he had really easy layups and dunks that he just didn't take. And I've been saying he needs to get out of his head and just play. I think it'll come with time as he gets more comfortable in the system. And I was hoping this was a big step toward that. And then, of course, in the next game, he came out and couldn't guard anybody and got sent back to the bench.
Yeah. I love what I see from him when he really does. When he's making plays, he's outstanding. But he also doesn't, like, his mistakes don't show as much. I mean, obviously on defense, we saw that in the last game, but I just feel maybe he just doesn't get enough time
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
The mistakes that I see on offense, they tend to come when there's a little bit of pressure, and he tries to make he'll try to pass out of like a press or a little bit of a trap or something, and he doesn't make the best decisions out of that. In the half court offense, I think the issue is more just being a little tentative, and not as mistake prone. But it seems like his mistakes either come on defense or when they're trying to break a press.
Jimerson played all 40 minutes again and ended up with 18 points on 6 of 15 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line. Another outstanding, not outstanding, a really good performance.
Yeah, and I know you were questioning the team's overall effort late in the game, but to me, Jimerson was clearly really trying to get things going on offense, taking to the basket, playing hard. It was his effort was visible here. He had 5 rebounds, including 2 on the offensive end.
Yeah, it was, I don't think I've ever, Jimerson, I can't question his effort. He played 40 minutes a game under Ford as the main cog in an offense. So, like, Jimerson has never been a question for me. It's just when it was kind of I think I asked if this team was trying when McCautry threw away that pass over the top. It feels like every time this team just continuously makes the wrong pass. And it causes them so much strife and so much stress because their defense is that good. And they don't need to rush. Like, even if you're, like I said earlier, if your offense is just okay, you're in a much better position. If you take care of the ball just a little bit better, if you play a little, like, we could benefit from that Dayton conservative offense, that kind of that attitude, not so much the style, but like that attitude of like, we're going to play conservatively on offense because we do have that sort of defense. And I think we have a better defense than Dayton does, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I like what we're doing on the defensive end. I just offensively, I'd rather see us just do what we're supposed to do well, and West Pine Bills lately has been saying valuing the ball. I think that's a good way of putting it. They when you talk about the passes that they're making and always making the wrong pass, I think that shows a lack of valuing the ball, and you're right. It's probably a mentality that needs to shift there.
That was something I was questioning. Like Swope really early in this season was having the issue specifically. So I hope that, I don't know. Yeah, I do think I agree. They just don't value the ball. They don't value possessions. And what is the analytical adage? A bad shot is better than a turnover.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Speaking of Swope, he had another bad first half, but ended up with 20 points in 38 minutes, going 8 of 18 overall, 4 of 13 from 3. He had 5 turnovers again, which he would repeat in the St. Joe's game, and only 2 assists. So, we saw that this is the kind of game that I thought he would have again in St. Joe's and didn't. He strung two bad halves together in that one. But Kobe Johnson, again, somehow the most reliable player on this team, 11 points, 3 of 4 from 3 in this game. by far the team leader in plus minus in this game at plus 14. The next best on the team was Anya at plus 3. He's just been such a steady presence lately, and I know we said it after the more recent game, but I think it just bears repeating.
Yeah. Anya had 9. He had 9, 5, and 5. 2 massive blocks. But again, you get to take the good with the bad, because he also was prominently featured in some of the Billiken's worst sequences in this game.
Yeah. There were some plays where you just kind of scratch your head here, right?
I think the entire game was just, oh my God. Oh my God. Like a missed like giving up 3 and 4 offensive rebounds. McCautry throwing the ball over the top. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like this game was just a steady stream of me just saying out loud, oh my God.
Right.
Stop doing that.
It was bad. I think we can't let people forget. It was a win, but this was not a good game until we pulled it out.
Did they remind everybody where Koluanya's from on the broadcast?
Yeah, I had to put it in the notes, Zach, just because
Worcester?
we needed to remind everybody that he was in front of friends and family from nearby Worcester. So they were excited. They were excited to see someone not quite local, but fairly local back in Massachusetts. UMass is not a good team. They're very sloppy. SLU gave them every opportunity to put this game away and just couldn't do it. UMass went 1 of 10 from the field to end the game. They missed their last 7 field goal attempts. They did not hit a field goal in the last 4:24 of game time. Pretty stunning collapse by them. As many things as McCautry and the rest of SLU did right at the end, they just didn't want it. Former Billiken Daniel Rivera had 14 and 14, though. Jalen Curry had 16. Rasul Diggins was held to just 5, with Hankins Sanford scoring 14 off the bench. Shout out to the guards on SLU, especially Kobe Johnson, taking Diggins out of this game. This is a guy who scored 46 in that triple overtime game at Fordham a couple weeks ago. He's been hot lately. Like, even when he's not scoring 46, I think he had 32 in the game before this one. So to hold him to 5 was a big deal.
Yeah. Kobe Johnson, huge. He's the guy that our big 3 have got to step up for Kobe.
They really do. They really do deserve it. He deserves it. Turnovers, SLU had 15, which is too many. UMass had 9, not enough. The Minutemen had 20 points off turnovers to SLU's 12, and it was more unforced turnovers. We've already made the point. It's just the high degree of difficulty passes. Yeah. Just the one that really sent me over the top was going for that home run pass with over 2 minutes left, down 3 points. Why on earth? Yes. Are you trying to complete that pass? It didn't make sense. They out-rebounded us by 3. Offensive rebounds were 21 for UMass to 11 for SLU. Terrible. Second chance points were 19 to 10. I guess that could have been worse based on the offensive rebounds, but it all meant that UMass ended up with 16 more field goal attempts than SLU. And this is happening a lot. I think it continues. It's been pointed out by Rakia, who looked it up. We have not had more field goal attempts than any D1 team we've played this season. It's been 0 a few times, like they've had the same, but we've never had more field goal attempts. SLU has to figure out how to close this gap.
If you're not going to turn the ball over, you have got to ensure you get the rebound and it is one and done. If you figure out rebounding, all these losses, they're flipping. Like, I'm telling you, like even the 16-point loss at St. Joe's or whatever the fuck it was, that flips.
Yeah.
That VCU game, that flips.
It's a fine line. We might be 10-1 in the league if they either figure out the rebounds or the turnovers. The rebounds I'd rather have. It's the defense is great at forcing teams to take bad initial shots, but the extra opportunities are just absolutely killer.
They are. It's a killer in that, like, it's a killer that it's just a killer for fans too, because it's that moment where you're like, oh my god, okay, like, just that's it. I can't. It's like what are we doing? Like, it's not even worth watching the rest of the game. I mean, it is, but like, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that casual fans, and don't want to deal with. And like looking on Discord, I know more hardcore fans turned it off. It's just it looks like effort. Offensive rebounding for the other team looks like a lack of effort there on our end, and that kills people. If they feel like if you're not trying, why should I?
Yeah.
And so you're right, it has a big impact on fans. But Zach, this was the final game up at UMass in the Mullins Center. SLU owns the overall series 18-10. Maybe we'll see them in non-conference play, neutral site tournaments going forward. But unless we see them in the conference tournament, that's it for us in the Minutemen.
Yeah. See you later. See you never. I don't. That place is a cavern. We got those here in Missouri. Yeah. So we can play basketball there anytime.
Yeah, it is weird that a team that was one of the the initial A10 teams is now gone, and I associate the A10 and UMass so closely together. It's weird to see them leaving for basically an Ohio football conference.
Yeah, I pair the A10 and UMass more than I pair UMass with being the flagship university of the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I just don't think of them as the biggest school, as the,
You can make an argument for Lowell. I think you can make
Lowell.
an argument for lower division UMass
Boston. Yes.
There's other state schools that just
shout out Ben Affleck. Total rebounds in this one, 41-38. So not horrible.
We already covered all these.
Oh, we
numbers.
did. Okay. I'm sorry.
We're good. We put a bow on that one. We're done.
All right. This game's over. See ya. Thanks for coming out.
Goodbye, UMass.
Let's talk about the biggest fraud in the A10. Once again, the Atlantic 10 has babied a middle of the road program with a schedule so soft. They do it in the non-revs when you can completely avoid the best teams in the league. Mason did this exact thing in soccer. I appreciate the 10 people that got the reference on Twitter. But I
was like, who is this for? You're like,
yeah,
it's
for me. It's for me. It's my therapy account.
I was like, I get it, Zach, but man, if other people, and it was clear that some of them didn't, but the ones who did, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Or who at least did the work to look it up.
Yes. If you want to, if you're not, fully ingrained in this stupidity, George Mason, soccer, did not play. I think they didn't play SLU or Dayton.
Yeah, they didn't play any of the best teams.
Yeah,
in the league.
They played none of them, and they got the top seed, and all the they're ranked. They played nobody in the non-conference, and they're ranked. They're talking about an at-large bid, and they lose to SLU in the second round. And SLU goes up 2-0, and then I think really quickly, and then they get a PK late and cut the lead to 1. But I mean, Mason fans are still sitting there like, yeah, I think we get an at-large bid. It's like, no, not even close. So
let's talk.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on with this Mason team. Plus a lucky encounter with Dayton, I think.
So the Patriots are 19-5. They're 10-1 in Tony Skinn's second year as head coach in the A10. They're alone in first place. They've won 9 in a row, Zach, after starting 1-1. Rhode Island is the only conference loss. It was on the road. They lost to Duke, East Carolina, Central Michigan, and Marquette in the non-con. The best non-conference win, Tulane. Not a big achievement there, but as you have helpfully pointed out several times, they've had about as favorable a conference slate as possible. Their home and home opponents are Davidson, Richmond, George Washington, and Rhode Island. I guess some of that is just kind of the nearby geography not being very good right now. But getting Rhode Island as the fourth home and home is also pretty favorable. But to be fair, Zach, they did win. Yeah. At both Dayton and St. Bonaventure, and those are not easy places to win.
Did they win at George Washington? They did.
They did, yeah. Just recently. So the next 3 games, SLU, St. Joe's at home, and then at VCU, are the toughest stretch of their season before they end with 4 more easy games to finish up.
Yeah, it's again. I think my point of view is if you take, let's say you get VCU, Dayton, and Loyola. Let's say they get SLU's pod, right? I'm going to say Loyola beats them at Loyola. I mean, okay. Let's say Mason sweeps Loyola. They beat Dayton. Okay. They're not winning that game when Dayton goes to GMU. They're not. I'm sorry. That Dayton team is not the Dayton team now. It's not.
Right.
They're not winning a single game against VCU. VCU is blowing out everybody right now.
Yeah.
Like that's 3-3 instead of, that's 3-3 right there. That's 3 losses, including and then you add in that loss against Rhode Island. You're looking at, again, if that's the start of their schedule, you're looking at 6-4, 7-4.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty favorable schedule, both in quality of opponent and order. I think it's good. Like I said, this is the tough stretch, and then they get kind of 4 bottom half teams to finish up. So even if they do stumble in this stretch, they're probably going to hang on to a top 4 seed no matter what. It seems impossible that they wouldn't. But let's talk about who they are and what they do. Yeah. The reason people didn't see this record coming is that the top 8 scorers are all transfers, and 5 of them are new this year. Darius Maddox is a 6'5" senior. He averages 13.5 points a game. Not the most efficient shooter except at the free throw line, where he's one of the best in the nation at 91%. He's basically doing what he did last year. We've seen him before. Jalen Haynes is a load inside.
That Terrence Hargrove.
He kind of is. 6'8", 250. He's averaging 12.4 and just under 7 rebounds a game. He's obviously really effective around the basket, but he's a little more mistake prone if you can get him away from the basket and make him put it on the floor, operate out of mid-range, move a little bit. If you just let him have it at the basket, he's tough. And I hope Robbie doesn't get in foul trouble there. They go about 9 deep. Braden O'Connor, he's the guy with the curly red hair. Woody Newton and Zach Anderson are the other 3 starters. Anderson's a good 3-point shooter. He's over 40%, but not super high volume. O'Connor is a pretty decent 3-point shooter as well. But the name of the game with this team is defense. They're 8th in the country in points per game allowed. They're 2nd in opposing field goal percentage, holding teams to shooting just 36.5% against them. They play slow. They're near the bottom of D1 in field goal attempts. They draw a lot of fouls. They're really patient, really methodical. They clean up the defensive glass. They're not super aggressive on the offensive glass. They're good, but not like VCU or anything. They get those kind of backbreakers, right, where they end up getting an offensive rebound after an attempt late in the shot clock. You can 25 seconds have come off the shot clock. They put up a shot and then somehow wind up with the offensive rebound. It's those kind that they get. They don't have the toughest schedule, Zach. We've gone over that. We know that, but they're beating almost everyone. Not by a lot, though, until that win this weekend against Rhode Island, which we'll mention in a second. Every conference win since the opener has been a single-digit game. So they're not doing what VCU is doing to teams right now. Even though VCU's got more losses, George Mason's just there was one overtime win, and everything else has been single digits since the Davidson win.
I'm surprised the Dayton win wasn't double digits. Oh, it did. They cut the lead big time.
Yeah.
That was the George Washington's the one that beat them by double digits.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
So anyway, so that's they play it close. I think, it's a winnable game. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond on the road. They're going to be at SLU. They've won at Bonaventure and Dayton, which are arguably harder places to play. I don't know, Zach. I think I'd rather face them than St. Joe's again or VCU or some of the other teams that we've struggled with lately.
I'm interested. I don't like the defensive glass. Them being good on the they get that backbreakers. The backbreakers are what's. I mean, again, you can sit here and say they're not super aggressive on the offensive glass, but I would imagine that will be cranked up at least a notch against us the way we've been playing.
Yeah, and when they're shooting so late in the shot clock and they're kind of waiting for the right shot, things open up, and so they wind up with offensive boards that way. Is like they're not getting the first attempt that you think they would when you're still in position. So they're just trying to take you out of position, wear you down. It's kind of what they do.
Friday the 14th, the Billikens will head to Loyola. I will be in attendance. That is a late developing story, which will be exciting. Of course, I decided to put forth the effort and spend the money to go to Chicago before we lose that game to St. Joe's and of course, that's how it happens every time.
Of course it is.
Loyola is 14-9, 5-5 in Drew Valentine's fourth season in charge. Not exactly what you expected out of Loyola. A lot of people had them penciled in, and they still are up there in the mix for the top four. But I think it's not exactly what people expected, but that's kind of for good reason.
Yeah, so they started out 8-0, and they kind of were maybe even better than people thought they would be, but suffered some key injuries in mid-December, and the wheels came off. They lost 4 of their last 5 non-conference games, and they're going 500, as you said, in A10 play so far. They're coming off a loss at Duquesne after beating St. Joe's and Bonaventure at home. It was a double-digit loss at Duquesne. Their previous 2 conference losses were overtime losses, right? So they had been close. Justin Moore remains out. He was one of the mid-December injuries. I think he's the one who hurt his knee and is done. But Jaden Dawson is back, and he's third in scoring. They also lost a guy further down the bench who's back as well. The top 3 are all averaging around 12 points a game. Des Watson and Sheldon Edwards are the other 2. Miles Rubin is the 6'10 center from Chicago, one of the best shot blockers in the league, 2.2 a game, I think. They're in better shape now than they were in mid-December. Of
course they are. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I would have liked to make this an early game on our calendar. Like, of course, both games we have against Loyola are in the second half of the league, and they've kind of gotten a little more healthy. But I think they're still struggling with consistency and identity. In that Duquesne loss, they turned it over a lot. They struggled to stop the Dukes inside, and they were really poor with shot selection. This came after running St. Bonaventure out of the gym at home and holding them to just 53 points. So we're going to be seeing them twice the rest of the way. This is going to be a good litmus test on the road. I think now it's just a question of like which Loyola shows up, and they're better at home on the road, unfortunately, but. I don't know, Zach. This team is vulnerable on any given night to me.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to make of this team. I really don't know. Like, I don't want to get back to like last season when we didn't care anymore, but it's just very hard to. It's hard to put like. And I'm not saying I don't care, because I think this team is much more, exciting. We're winning. Like we're in the top of the like in the top 4. But it's very hard to know what to expect and get up for a game. And then, like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say that it's like, because I'm happy we're back. I'm happy we're winning. It's just, it's it's infuriating at the way we're losing, because I feel like this team is right there. It's like we're back to where we were at the start of the season, where I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't know what we're missing exactly. And I don't think it's unattainable, but we're missing something, and we need to find it. I don't think it's anything like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, we lost there last year. We actually lost both against Loyola last year. But I just... to me, it's just I kind of throw my hands up on this one and go, I need to see what happens against Mason. I don't know if that's going to be an indication of what we do at Loyola necessarily, but I think Loyola fans kind of feel the same way, that there's just a lot of inconsistency lately.
Yeah. Let's kick it around the A10, Pete. Tuesday the 4th, VCU 96, LaSalle 66. They are not just undefeated at the Siegel Center. They are straight up committing. They are unaliving teams right now, Pete.
They sure are. They really are.
This was not even a challenge. By the way, how pissed is CBS Sports that they just put 2 straight VCU games on that were over by like the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
2 straight.
I know.
You can cancel CBS Sports, I think, at this point. They're not putting on games you want to see. Dayton 69, Davidson 63. Once again, we talked about it after the Dayton game here in St. Louis.
Yep.
I mean, it is. I said it watching that Houston game when Toppin got thrown out for the kick to the nuts.
Yeah.
If we got 1% of the home whistle, a team gets like Houston or Dayton, I think we'd be much better.
Yeah, they got a freebie here, Zach. A crucial technical foul late in the game.
Did we ever find out what the hell this was all about?
No. You could not see it on camera, so the idea is somebody said something, which seems very un-Davidson-like.
Or maybe very Davidson-like, depending on your view of Davidson.
I did not like the tone in which you said, "Pardon me, sir." It's very strange. But from there, Dayton hits the free throws. They get the possession, they convert, and they get a 6-point win in what was essentially a tied game up until that point. So
I don't like the way you wear your Sperry's, sir. You cannot wear boat shoes when you're not on a boat, sir.
Yes, it's more of a golf or sailing etiquette.
Oxfords are not proper basketball shoes, sir. Loyola 77, Bonaventure 55. I am in lockstep with the A10 right now. The Billikens, I have no idea what the hell we're doing. Excuse me. I'm playing sick for all you people. I am in lockstep with things that are going on in the A10. Loyola 77, Bonaventure 55. I saw this coming.
You did. I got to hand you credit. I looked at that game and said I wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole, but it was a 22-point game, and you, for some reason, was like, "Oh yeah, Loyola." You were so confident about it. I didn't get it.
I sometimes I'm a little more cocksure than I need to be. Wednesday the 5th, George Mason 53, George Washington 50. This was one where I stepped a little bit out of line. I was convinced that the Revs were going to win the Revolutionary rivalry. They did not. 19-13 at halftime. It was among the uglier games we've seen in this conference this season.
What is it about the Smith Center that brings out the worst in shooters?
Do you know what?
The 20-point game. It's where we lost a few weeks ago. I don't get it.
I know exactly what it is, Pete, and I'm going to tell you. It is the anxiety that is gathered from the fact that scoreboard could fall from the ceiling at any moment.
Yeah, but that happened. That doesn't explain our 20-point game there.
Well, that was just Majerus. Majerus was practicing that game.
Yeah.
Like that was a practice. I'm sorry, that was a secret scrimmage that just happened to be nationally televised.
Yeah.
Let's
we don't
see.
have to acknowledge it.
No, we don't. Fordham 80, Rhode Island 79. This time Rhodey was on the wrong end of a buzzer beater. This one was like watching an NBA game because it was Rhodey went up, or Fordham went up big. They were absolutely destroying Rhode Island. Then Rhode Island comes all the way back in the second 10 minutes of the first half. Like Rhodey just kills them in the second 10 minutes. They had a horrible closeout to that first half. And then Fordham overcomes whatever small deficit Rhode Island had built up with a buzzer beater. Richmond 73, Duquesne 68 to finish off the Wednesday slate. Friday 10, Pete, talk us through the weekend.
Yeah, so VCU 73, Dayton 68 in one of the most anticipated A10 games, arguably of the season. Dayton was in pretty good shape in this game until the last 3 minutes and just melted down. VCU got to them in a big way. It was all the VCU stuff. It was pressure, causing turnovers. It was offensive rebounds. It's the stuff we saw VCU doing against us in the Siegel Center, and Dayton fans were not happy after this.
Of course they weren't. I'm
ended.
sure the refs ruined the game for them.
Oh yeah. They were up 5, and I was kind of like, all right, I guess Dayton's
I thought it was
pull
over.
this thing out. But VCU did everything right. Dayton did everything wrong after that. I don't know why VCU didn't play that way from the start, because in that last few minutes, you felt like this could have been a blowout if VCU had just kind of stuck to that the whole time. But maybe they just weren't hitting shots or whatever. Interesting game though, and Dayton fans are calling for Anthony Grant's head after the loss. On Saturday the 8th, Davidson 71, Richmond 60 in the country club battle there. Richmond was up for a while early, and people were saying Davidson stunk, but Zach, the Oracle again,
in lockstep,
called this one. George Mason 82, Rhode Island 67. That's the Mason's biggest margin of victory this season in A10 play. Duquesne 69, Loyola 56.
As soon as I saw
on the road.
As soon as I saw Mason go up 8-0, I was like, okay, I'm done following this.
Well, hey, we went up 10-2 in that UMass game, and then
Rhode Island.
Yes, no, I know.
Oh, Archie.
Sunday, the 9th, we are recording, so GW at Bonaventure and UMass at LaSalle have not happened yet. Zach, the argument is whether the A10 is really a big mushy middle, or if there is somebody who's, not who we think they are somewhere in the standings. But why don't you run us through where the standings sit as of Sunday's, Saturday's games, technically?
I think SLU might be that team. Like, SLU can be that team that we don't know yet, right?
They could be.
I do think they have it somewhere, even with the injuries, even with again, you look at that defense, and I think it's just as it's up there. I think with that Mason defense in this conference, in a lot of those first, even in that game against Dayton, even in that game against VCU, like that both games against VCU, we had great defense. Yeah. So I think it's there. It's just it's about finding that level of risk on offense. It's about taking care of the ball, valuing the ball. By the way, I want to pick these two, just to put my money where my mouth is. Right? Should I throw out my pick? I think it's let's go with I'm gonna give LaSalle over UMass, and let's go GW over Bonaventure. Okay,
I like both of those.
I didn't want to take both at home and sound like a wussy. The standings, Pete. Oh, the standings. Fraud Mason sits alone at 10-1. VCU right behind them at 9-2. The Billikens sitting in third. I mean, we're hand-wringing. Here we sit in third place in the conference at 7-4. I'm happy to be here. Dayton 6-5. Loyola Chicago, St. Joe's, and UMass all at 5-5. Bonaventure and Duquesne with that extra loss at 5-6. George Washington, Davidson, and LaSalle at 4-6, with Rhode Island at 4-7 with that extra loss, and then Fordham 3-7, and then Richmond bringing up the ass end of the conference at 3-8. Are the billboards up in Richmond, Pete?
Not that I know of, but I'll ask my brother to keep his eyes peeled for anything.
We're staying alive. We are the Bee Gees.
We are, Zach. We're still in this thing, the survivor picks. Last week you had Loyola over Bonaventure, and you got that one, as we know. I had VCU over Richmond. I got that one very, very much so. I think that was a 41-point win, and it probably could have been worse. This week you had Davidson over Richmond. My game is still TBD. I have Dayton over Fordham on Wednesday the 12th. I don't know quite how I feel about that. But I think Dayton coming off that bad loss to VCU, and I know this game's on the road at Fordham. I still like the pick here. The pick.
No, I do too. I don't think there's any chance you lose here.
I hope not.
On the recruiting side, we got a little more out of. We got some new. Richard Chaffetz, here, I'll let you handle this because I'm not even sure how to like get into it.
So we've been hearing some rumblings that the NIL is going to step up, and we had Richard Chaffetz give Frank Cusimano a blurb on camera last weekend that he was ready to commit in a big way to NIL. We also started to kind of hear, like I said, some rumblings that he wasn't alone and that SLU was going to get a big bump this year. Then we got actual numbers that came out this week on social media. The Texas Tech AD said it was about 3.6 million for men's basketball this year, and we kind of saw what they're spending on other programs, which was pretty interesting. So I know we've heard before that SLU was going to be ready to play in the NIL space, but I don't know, it all feels different this time, Zach. It feels like we finally have the big donors coming around and understanding what needs to be done to be competitive. I kind of feel like they're serious.
Yeah, I don't think I've always been of the opinion that like the Billiken Victory Fund is great. I thought it should be. I mean, it was great when we needed it, the external presence.
Yeah,
it's going to go away. Or absorbed by the athletic department. I've always thought that the big donors outside of the BVF were going to really be what was the meat of our NIL offering,
sure.
our money offering. We'll call it our payroll offering. Let's stop fucking around here. It's not NIL anymore. Our payroll offering. I always thought it was going to come from one to like a handful or less of players, and by players I mean donors. Mm-hmm. And that BVF side was going to be more your kind of here and there donors, raise some money, maybe get to pay the back end of the roster, right? And it sounds like what we heard was mostly Chaffetz, right? And we've heard that we obviously Bomarito's involved with the dealership and sponsorships. Obviously, we've seen Robbie at the Bomarito dealership, but I think it's going to be I do think it's different this time. I think, but I think it's going to be those Chaffetz's, those Novellis, those the Bomaritos, the real big, the heavy hitters that are going to be important. And it sounds like there is an extra one that is ready to step up.
Yeah, that's what it sure seems like, and that's good news, because if it's going to take $3+ million to do this every year, then if we want to be competitive, I guess that's what we're gonna have to do.
You and I you and I are so very like not excited about the NIL. Like I'm glad they're it's not so much that I'm against the way they're playing players. It's just I have no it's all just it's a jumbled mess, and I don't have the energy to wade into it's like going shopping at like H&M or walking into a Forever 21. It is anxiety inducing because it is a mess, and you cannot figure any, the sizes are all mixed up. Everything's laying all over the floor. You don't, what is going on? That is NIL to me. Looking at NIL, that's what that looks like.
It's a wild landscape right now, but hey, if we're serious, we've got to step up. And I don't know. It sounds like they are this time, so I believe them.
Let's talk about a little offer update. Amir Jenkins.
Yeah, it's not a new one. I missed it back in November. It just didn't. This one didn't make. It didn't go across the normal channels, I guess I would say. SLU offered a 2026 point guard, like you said, Amir Jenkins. He's out of Worcester Academy in Massachusetts, so maybe that's why it bubbled up again this week. Worcester. He plays his AAU ball for BABC, Boston Area Basketball Club, I think is what it is, which is an Adidas program. The 6'3" Jenkins can fill it up as a scorer. He's a good downhill scorer. He's a good outside shooter. He's also an excellent playmaker. He's got great vision. And a lot of what I read about him is his leadership ability. He's really a vocal player. But I like the video on him as well. He's just inside the top 100 on the 24/7 sports rankings. They're the only one that have him ranked. His other offers right now, he's got Bonaventure and GW in the A10, Providence out of the Big East, San Diego, Albany, Bryant, in some other smaller conferences. But recently, he mentioned Providence, Bonaventure, and SLU as being the ones who are involved. He just visited Providence. So good that somebody we offered back in the fall we're still in the mix on.
Before we close the loop on basketball, I just want to give a shout out to Charles Abernathy, one of our awesome listeners and a friend, for hooking me up with his tickets to the Loyola game and making it possible for me to head up there. Pete, you know who else is a good friend of the program?
I do, Zach. It's our friends at Two Men in a Garden, and I would challenge everybody this week. Well, I guess it's a little late now, but as you listen to this, the Super Bowl just happened. And
by the way, thank you for listening to us. If you're not listening to the Sports Drive Time post Super Bowl radio.
Yeah, I think if the Chiefs have won, and we don't know yet, if the Chiefs won, I think a lot of St. Louis people are going to be avoiding sports talk radio.
Yes, I hope they are.
But so my challenge to you is think about the Super Bowl party you went to last night or whenever it was when you're listening to this, and think about the salsa that was on the table. And if you had the thought that it could probably be better, I want you to go over to twomeninthegarden.com. I want you to buy some yourself, or if you're in St. Louis, head to a local, grocery store and and see what they've got, because they'll probably have some on shelves. I want you to head to Two Men in a Garden. If not, get some and then see if you think that's better at what you just had at the Super Bowl party. My guess is it probably will be, in your opinion. I would like you to take that challenge, though. Support our friends. They support us. And next time you go to a Super Bowl party or other big sports function where there's a lot of snacks on the table, make sure you've got some Two Men in a Garden there. I think it'll go over well. It did at my family Thanksgiving. I don't have any to bring to the Super Bowl party I'm going to tonight, though, but we were told not to bring food anyway.
What kind of high rolling party? Are you going to the JD Vance's house tonight? What's up?
I wasn't invited to that one, Zach, but but we've got a good one. But anyway, head over to twomeninthegarden.com and $9.99 nationwide shipping. Take advantage of it and see for yourself.
I don't remember if I told that story about when I was in Cincinnati and drove by his house, and like I was just like, because I'm driving around, I go, what in Sam Hill is going on here? They got a tent outside. Like, who lives? And I texted you. I'm like, what's up with this house down the road? Like, I had no idea that I just was like completely oblivious. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Women's basketball side of things, a 20-point loss. This one was no surprise, and not necessarily because the Billikens have been bad, but St. Joe's is a good team this year, and this is on the road. It's a 69-49 loss, Wednesday the 5th. There's many different starting lineups till it's used this year. This was a new one.
The lineup was Simon, Calhoun, Gray, Wallace, Shavers. I know it's the first time we saw that specific combination. I don't love the fact, Zach, that we're designing. I mean, like, there's part of me that's like, okay, you're trying to come up with the best strategy to compete with this given team that you're playing against, and you want to put the best combination possible for that. But I also don't love the fact that we just don't have, like, these are our five. You adjust to them. It's always the other way around. It makes us feel like, the little sibling that's playing from behind, and I don't love that. I think it comes back to the identity conversation we've been having about this team lately. Yeah. And so anyway, that's why I don't love to see it. I would rather be on the other side of that coin. But Zach, if you take out the 28-8 second quarter, this game was essentially a tie.
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Again, like it's the women's basketball game is so funny the way with quarters that I really do think it impacts the flow of the game, and it really does give a lot more chances for just large runs and those large runs to sustain over a quarter. rather than say broken up over that like 7 minutes or whatever in a men's basketball game in 3 minutes. I don't know. I don't know if I'm talking nonsense. They were the bottom line is the Billikens are 2 for 12 from three. The seventh game in a row, they've hit either a 2 or 3 in an entire game. They're not shooting as many threes anymore, Pete. It's obviously because Peyton Kennedy goes 2 for 8. The rest of the team goes 0 for 4.
Yeah, they're just not even looking for it. And I don't think that has changed since this game either. I get it. The lineup here indicates they're playing bigger. That's what they figured they had to do. But it didn't really work because they got out rebounded 45-23. St. Joe's had 15 offensive rebounds. SLU actually had 9 and forced 23 turnovers out of St. Joe's. So they both wound up with 57 field goal attempts. But man, oh man, I think they just realized they were going to be overmatched inside. Unfortunately, though, they just cannot hit shots from anywhere. I understand wanting to bang the ball inside a little bit more, but you're only shooting 33% in this game inside the arc. Or I'm sorry, overall. So I guess better than that inside the arc. 16.7% from outside, 90% from the free throw line. That's the only place that they can consistently score. Luckily, Tierra Simon had a good game, led SLU with 14 points. Kennedy had 10 off the bench. She just remains not herself. But Laura Ziegler from St. Joe's finished with 27 and 10. She just got everything she wanted against this team, Zach.
Yeah. Again, like I said, not surprising. The Hawks are a top 3 team in this league. This was their 7th win in a row. They were just inside the top 50 of the net when we played them. Again, this game was going to be a long shot, and the defense was where it needed to be. Aside from the rebounding, it could have been better on that end on the defensive boards.
Yeah, they just can't score.
You gotta figure out how to get better shots, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to create better shots. You've got to actually start making the shots that you do get. This was SLU's lowest point total of the season, which I don't know. It's just disappointing. Under 50 is kind of unforgivable when you have 57 field goal attempts and get to the line a little bit. I don't have answers here. They just gotta score. Yeah. I really think better shot creation is a big part of it. Shot selection has been an issue all year long.
Sure.
Don't love it.
How about a 73-51 win versus LaSalle on Saturday the 8th? It was senior night. This was kind of an expected result. And they did what they needed to do. 8 players were honored: Kennedy Calhoun, Peyton Kennedy, Markavia Shavers, Nafa Haidera, Tierra Simon, Belle Tillett, Bree Johns, and Maya Glanton. Ashley Connor returned to Chaffetz for the first time since transferring out of SLU, Pete, and I can confirm there was no fight this time. So that's a positive. The Billikens held the Explorers to 18 in the first half, including just 6 in the second quarter. The Billikens were okay on defense, but my goodness, LaSalle, and it was mentioned 15 times in the broadcast that this LaSalle team could not make a bucket inside.
It was crazy. Like you want to credit SLU's defense, but they were missing point blank layups and things like that in a way that I had not really seen this season. It was wild. Ashley Connor herself did not have the best game, wound up fouling out late. Things got a little sloppy late in the third and into the fourth, but SLU managed to kind of keep them in arm's distance and hang on. And then SLU just kind of converted every opportunity in the fourth quarter. They scored 28 points to close it out. Not the prettiest game at all. 25 turnovers for LaSalle, 24 for SLU. That's an obscene number of turnovers for both teams. Yes. Lots of them unforced, trying to make difficult passes. Kennedy Calhoun had 7, Zach, and I don't know what she was trying to do at times out there.
It was like she was throwing passes right to other opposing players. She was trying to make behind the back passes, saving a ball from going out of bounds. The shot selection was not good. I just thought she was kind of I don't know how to describe it. It was very much like, did you like, are you kind of drunk? Like I hate to say that, like, because
Yeah.
I'm not accusing her or anything, but like, are you drunk? Like, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. Why would you do like that's not a thing you do.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, just I've never really she's got really good defensive instincts, but I don't think that's true on the other end. Even when she does kind of put up numbers,
Yeah.
very helter skelter in this game. Maybe it was senior night, maybe she had some people there, and she was kind of overdoing it. I'm not really sure. Just kind of a confusing performance. But SLU continued to struggle from outside, going at 2 of 17. That's more attempts than we've seen in some games lately. But once again, 2 or 3 is the number of threes that they've hit in the last 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty of bright spots in a 22-point win, though. Brooklyn Gray led SLU with 18, hit her only 3-point attempt, the first she's made in a long time, and the bench let her know, too, because that was also in a stretch where SLU was really putting the game away. But Hannah Wolasak, you mentioned her
Yeah.
in a text to me while you were watching this game. Very good in her 25 minutes, scoring 12, grabbing 5 rebounds. Very promising out of the freshman.
Yeah, and of course her defense was just as good, I thought. But that has been. It's really about waiting for the freshman to bring along her offensive game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Maya Glanton had 12 and 8. Look, SLU scored inside. They made free throws. They got rebounds. It was enough to put a bad LaSalle team away. You can't get away with that many turnovers against some of the better teams in this league, as we've seen, but we'll take it. This was Tillett's 100th win as a D1 head coach, and they celebrated her for that as well. So a lot to celebrate on this night, and now it's time to buckle down and win some games down the stretch here.
Yeah, and 2 of those games they got coming up. This one sounds like it may be a tough test, but right now, not so sure. Thursday the 13th at VCU. VCU's 10 and 14 overall, 4 and 8 in the league, currently on a 4-game losing streak. Not something you expect from VCU women's basketball. They will have 8 days off when this game is played. They're a strong defensive team, not very good on the other end. They want to slow the game down. They hold teams to under 28% from 3. Not that it makes a difference against a team that doesn't take or make threes. They are unlike the SLU men. They want you to take bad shots, or they aren't unlike the SLU men. They don't want you to take bad shots. They don't play super aggressive style built around forcing turnovers. They turn it over a lot and aren't super efficient. The idea is just to make the other team play worse. Sunday the 16th at Richmond, the best team in the league. It's on the road. Spiders have won 9 straight. They're in the top 31 of the net ranking. Excellent 3-point shooting team. This is going to be a fucking disaster. They shoot 51% overall, 76% from the line. They don't have any holes on the roster. Everyone can shoot the ball. For the Billikens, Pete, what can they do here?
I honestly, Zach, I spent more time than I would like to admit trying to look for things that, okay, maybe if we do this or if we do that. But the fact of the matter is Richmond is very, very good, well-rounded. They've got good size. Everyone shoots from everywhere. Like even their bigs, not all the time, but they can they could step out and take a 3. They all shoot from the free throw line. Like when you look at their starters, everybody's percentages are good from everywhere. Shooting over 40% from a team as a team from 3 is outstanding. They're like you said, over 51% overall. They shoot free throws really well. It's every position. They rebound well. Like they do everything well. The only teams they've lost to all season long are like those power conference teams with, I think, one hiccup in conference aside.
I got it coming up.
Yeah. So I know they lost to Texas and a couple other like SEC type teams, and even those games weren't like completely out of control. I think that Texas game was like a 10-point loss, and they lost to Georgetown by like 4.
They beat Oklahoma State by 5 or 4. Georgetown by 2.
Yeah, so I think you need to look at this really as a power conference team. Given their size, and it's really interesting that their women's program is this good, right? Because their men's program has always been about how do we get the most out of limited athletic ability, and their women's program is just like, oh, we could absolutely go into the ACC and compete. So that's really impressive to me what they're doing there right now.
This is nuts. Yeah.
I mean, bottom line is SLU has to play a perfect game, and we haven't seen them play really a clean game at all this year.
Fordham beat them. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That was just a very. I remember there being. Yeah, that's right. It was Fordham. One really unexpected game. Now Fordham's not terrible, but they're just kind of a mid A10 team.
Yeah. Pete, run us down the standings of this.
Yeah, like we said, Richmond's 10-1. They're in first. George Mason's number 2 at 11-2, 21-3 overall, by the way. St. Joe's is 10-2. Davidson and Rhode Island are both 8-4, fighting for that number 4 spot. UMass is 8-5. Dayton's 7-5. Duquesne's 6-5. Fordham 6-6. VCU and St. Louis both have 4-8 records, so that game coming up is really crucial for SLU. Loyola is 3-9, and so is George Washington. And then at the bottom, you've got LaSalle at 2-11, Bonaventure 1-12. It's funny how only a couple teams in the whole league have the same record as each other, and it's just kind of everybody separated by either a game or a half game all the way down. Really interesting league this year, and I actually think they might get multiple bids to the NCAA tournament if things kind of hold.
Yeah. I mean, not exciting for SLU, but because of course the year, I think, isn't it the first year they get payments?
Oh, that's a good question. I think so. Yeah.
Baseball. Ethan Bell signed with the Chicago Cubs. Boo, Cubs. Yay, Ethan Bell.
Yeah, good for him.
The Bills open the season at St. Mary's for a 4-game series this weekend. By the way, Chicago Cubs is where Norwood was also played a lot of his games.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Softball, preseason poll, the Billikens were picked to finish second in the A10 behind Dayton. Not really a surprise there. Dayton received 9 first-place votes. Billikens got 1. Loyola was picked 3rd and Fordham 4th. I'm sure George Mason will end up in first after being given a easy schedule.
Yeah.
The Bank of Hawaii Paradise Classic in Honolulu, Hawaii. It started off inauspiciously with a 4-3 loss versus Southern Indiana on Thursday the 6th. Probably should have gone the other way. The Bills loaded the bases 3 times, stranding 15 runners. Isabel Royal got the loss. She came in for Taylor Hockman in the 5th and gave up all 4 USI runs. 4-3 win versus Santa Clara was how the Billikens followed up Friday the 7th. Billikens got out to a 2-0 lead with some small ball and an error in the first, gave up all 3 Santa Clara runs in the 3rd, and won it with some more small ball in the top of the 7th. Taylor Hockman gets the win in this one. Pete, against the host on Friday.
Yeah, they lost 5-2 against host school Hawaii. Abby Mallow did hit a 2-run homer in the 5th, but it wasn't enough to catch up. Hawaii already had a 3-run lead and would go on to add a couple more insurance runs after that. Isabel Royal pitched a complete game and took the loss, but only 3 of the 5 runs were earned. And then this ended up with some bracket play on Saturday the 8th. So
have you I don't mean to interrupt you, but have you seen a bracket play?
No.
Ever?
Yeah, really unusual. Normally it's just kind of a round robin sort of thing. And so I thought that was kind of cool, actually. So they wound up facing Santa Clara and Southern Indiana again, and the results flipped for each of them this time. 6-4 was the loss to Santa Clara. SLU got out to a 4-run lead in the 3rd and then gave up 2 each in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Royal got the loss again, her 3rd of the season. And then they beat Southern Indiana 2-1. After going down by a run, Mallow hit a solo shot to tie it in the 4th. They scored the game winner on a wild pitch in the 5th and won despite just getting 2 hits in the entire game. Taylor Hockman picked up the win, spreading out 6 hits and striking out 5. The hitting, Zach, is a little bit concerning to me. It seemed like Abby Mallow was the only one hitting in this event. And she was doing great, obviously, but yeah, as a team, they just really don't get a lot of hits, and that's going to be an issue all season, I think. Next up, they've got the Aces tournament in Evansville against the home school, UT Martin, Ohio State, and Western Michigan on February 21st to 23rd. So they do get a little bit of time to come home and rest up after that big trip out to Hawaii.
Just stay in Hawaii and come back just come back, February 20th.
They're going to defect like North Koreans at the Olympics.
Jesus Christ. We've defected. The University of St. Louis at Hawaii. We are planting the flag. Indoor track and field in Missouri Invitational Friday and Saturday at Missouri. Coach John Bell said they've had 4 strong weeks in a row and that this was the best yet. Multiple school records falling and a number of personal bests. Griffin Kimbrell reached 4.61 meters in the pole vault, beating 4.55 meter school record set by James Baker last year. Sam Lamaze ran 48.54 in the 400, beating his own record. Sophia Pellegrin ran 9:43.05 in the 3,000, beating the school record of 9:43.61 set by Annika Gomel back in 2015. Emery Mayfield was just behind her at 9:49.64, 5th all-time. Brock Waugh and George Blanco ran 3rd and 4th best mile times in school history. Star Scott ran 2:13.45 in the 800, which is 2nd all-time. Next up will be the John Gartland Invitational at Indiana State, Saturday the 22nd. It's the last regular season meet before the A10 championships on February 28th through March 1st in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, Zach, on the tennis side of things this week, the men lost a couple matches. The first one at Eastern Illinois on Wednesday the 5th, 4-3. EIU took the doubles point, and then they split the 6 singles matches, with SLU picking up wins in the 2, 4, and 5 spots by Andres Castellanos, Riki Koshimizu, and Valentin Vasquez. The decisive match was at number 1, where Declan Townsend forced a 3rd set before ultimately losing that one. At MAC West on Saturday the 8th, they got skunked by Omaha 7-0. Really no notes there. Next up on February 20th, they've got Eastern Kentucky on the road. On the women's side, they beat Eastern Illinois 5-2 on Wednesday the 5th. SLU got the doubles point with wins at number 1 and 2 spots. And then Fiorella Duran in the 1 spot, Emerson White at number 3, Madison Hill at number 4, and Lizzie Barlow at number 6, all won in singles play. Next up, they'll go to Nebraska on Saturday the 15th and Sunday the 16th against Omaha. That will also be in Lincoln. So all 3 of them will be in Lincoln for that weekend. And that's it for tennis.
And that's it for Billiken Athletics this week. 2 hours of Billiken talk for you, probably an hour and 30, hour and 45 of men's basketball. So, that's going to do it for us. Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.